Chapter 14, Door Signs and Hardware. Hopefully by now you've printed all the parts. Here is the rectangular flat-shaped door sign backing. And over here on this side you see I've got the door sign frame and the sign is in the middle. When you get this sign, it will likely be the homemade one I have with adhesive backing. You've got to peel the backing off. But I did order from Avery some custom labels that hopefully they're supposed to come in a couple days. For some reason they got rerouted from my town to North Dakota. They'll be in a few days, and hopefully if this works with those samples, as well as the samples for the ambulance sign, then we'll be in business, and I'll start shipping those professionally manufactured ones rather than the ones I made. But the ones I made, currently shipping, and they work great. They're just a little tricky to get the, you see I got the tape for a reason. They're a little bit tricky to get the backing off. Here you see, first I'm going to test fit. I've cut the sign out around the, I've cut the black border around from the front square door sign. And you see it sits right on the backing there. I'm going to place the frame over it, and the frame fits well. Correction, the sign sits well in the frame with the back of the sign backing on there as well. So it's a nice, not friction fit, but nice loose, and as you see, the sign looks good inside its frame. So the next step is going to be peeling off the back of this sign so that we can adhere it to that backing of the printed backing. I have found that I'm holding this as Gorilla Glue and it doesn't like to come off. So this is a perfect instance of using this thing. I like to press a corner of the sign on here rather than trying to peel off with tweezers or something and risk marring or damaging the sign itself. I just press the backing of the sign against the Gorilla Tape, and now I'm going to pull back at a sharp angle slowly the Gorilla Tape, and as you see, the sign pops right off. The other trick of that is getting the Gorilla Tape off of your fingers. I'm going to hold this sign with tweezers so I can try to get a really good alignment, because you want to get it right the first time if at all possible. And place it on the backing, press it all around, and there you go, Bob's your uncle. And now I'm going to press the sign frame onto it, and you can see how good that is. I placed the TARDIS on its back now. You want to make sure you place it on its back, and now I'm definitely looking at the front. Okay, I better double check. Okay, I'm definitely looking at the front. And this square door sign, I like to leave this little assembly together now, the sign frame backing and the frame with the sign in it. I like to leave that all together so that when I'm going to glue in this square, this inset panel just below the left window on the front side, I'm going to dab it in some spots with, this is Testors cement for plastic models. This works really well. In fact, the only glue I've used so far in this build is hot glue where necessary, and to maintain that a little better than friction fit, so I don't have to do things again later. And at this point, this is going to be the first time I'm pulling out this. And this Testors glue, when it warms a little bit when you're holding it, it really likes to come out. I'm using my just a light small stick to squeeze a little bit of glue out onto it. There we go. And I'm going to spread some around the main part of the panel, the inside of the panel here. And try not to get it everywhere. It's kind of streaking like hot glue is. So this is going to adhere the sign frame backing onto the panel, onto the TARDIS here. But we still need to address the frame of the sign, which is not glued to the frame. Right now it's just sitting in it with a super light friction fit, and it can come out easily. So what I'm going to do is right near the edges of the inset, I'm going to place some glue as well. Very careful not to get it on the sloped portion, because that's going to be visible after you put the sign frame on, the whole assembly. So just try to get it just at the base edges of that inset panel. Again, so we don't have it visible on the outside. Just right up to the edge of the slope there should do it. And I'm going to hit it on all four sides so that frame has a chance of staying on. If it comes off later, we can break out this glue again and redo the job. But if we can get it to stick this first time, that's great. I like to put both the frame and the backing and everything together on at the same time, so I don't have to worry about the backing being centered in here and then putting the frame on. Well, I guess that's as close as I'm going to get. I'm not an expert in this. I am a subject matter expert. I'm just not an expert. So there we go. We've adhered the sign and the frame and the backing all in one go. And it looks like it's still a little bit loose, so I'm going to hold it there for a few minutes while it dries and sets. And I'll get back to you in a moment. Well, I believe that glue has set. And now the next step is I'm going to peel the backing off of the ambulance sign. I'm going to go back and use that same Gorilla Tape method. I'm going to stick the sign backing, or the round sign, the back of it, against the sticky side of the Gorilla Tape, and gently bend there. Going to make sure I got a good pressed on well, and hopefully, yeah, there I see it starting to come off. And now I'll grab it and peel it off. Now when you, this is going to go on the right side panel, just below the window, still on the front side of the box. And you want to orient it so the plus sign in the white ring of the sticker is oriented downwards towards the base of the model. And this probably isn't going to be perfectly centered, but yeah, what can you do? Hopefully that's not the main attraction. There you go. I also, like I said, I have Avery custom design and professionally printed sticker labels coming to replace this if that works out. If it doesn't, then I'll keep doing this method. If you don't order the kit, you can also print these out. I've included these signs to print PDF signs printable in the correct sizes for these, as well as the top signs. Next, we're going to model cement glue the 3 silver printed pieces that came in the kit. There's a smaller handle, a larger handle, and a door lock. The smaller handle goes on the sign frame, right at the edge of on the edge of the frame, towards the center of the box. So I'm going to break out this model cement off camera so I don't accidentally dribble any of it onto the model. And I'm going to use the glue stick, or the that little wood stick with a little cotton on the end. I've mentioned in the guide you can use a toothpick or something. You just want a little bit of, just a light bit of glue for this part of the job. And I've got this handle held in locking tweezers, and I'm just going to dab some glue on the flat pads of that handle, and maybe some along that center part. I don't want it to be that visible, but I do want it held on there so it doesn't come off easily. Hopefully the handles don't actually get much handle action, but you never know how people are when they see something cool as you have now that's going to be sitting on your counter. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to place it right in vertically in the center on the right on the flat of that sign frame, and release my tweezers. And if I need to center it up a little bit, I can do so with my fingers on top there. Yeah, if you try pressing, you may end up sliding it around. So I think that feels like it's on there just right. So I'm going to leave it in place and let it dry. And then I'm going to do the large handle next. I'm just putting it in my locking tweezers, held pretty darn firmly, and getting some more glue on the tip of my stick. Yes, I'm holding it over the model. Danger, Will Robinson, danger! Oh, dang, wrong sci-fi again. I'm going to dab the bottom flat tops and bottoms of the handle, the large handle, as well as some along that center. I know in the show it doesn't have that center piece going all the way to the door, but this is plastic printing, and we at least want it to go well. So I'm going to place it just right of the center on the flat portion of the door, just right of center, vertically centered along that inset, the inset panel. Whoops. Locking tweezers do take a little practice getting used to. So there you go. So I slid around a little bit. So there's a little bit of glue on the sides, but you know what? I'm going to call this good enough for government work. Again, hopefully that's not the main attraction. I like to think the top signs and the windows the lit top signs and windows are going to be. And lastly, I have the lock placed in my locking tweezers. And this is a nice larger round surface, so I'm just going to squeeze a dab of the plastic glue right on there and not mess with the stick. Now this goes in the right here, bottom left corner of the inset on the right side, below the, well, simply just below the big handle you just placed on there. And of course I slid that around a little bit as I went. Okay, so not perfect. Good luck doing it perfect on camera if you try it yourself. Next we work on the top signs. Top signs have an inner frame and an outer frame. The outer frame is nice and square and has that big hole in it, and square on the front face of it, the flat face that you printed on that was on the bed of the printer. The inner frame sets right into that outer frame, and it there's a little bit of friction in there to help hold it in place. And what happens is the inner frame and the outer frame sandwich the actual sign, the signs that came with the kit. So coming with the kit, the signs will look like this. I just cut out the sections, and I'm leaving it to the end user to fuss with cutting on along the black edge of the sign to trim it just right. When you trim it just at the black border so there's no white showing at the border. Try not to trim too much of the black out. If you trim all the white off around the edge, you should have a great fit putting it upside down into the outer frame. So I'm going to cut and trim these off camera, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Wow, time flies. I feel like it was just here. I've trimmed the signs to the edges of the black border, and you can just have an outer sign frame handy so you can test fit after you cut. You want to make sure that none of the corners are kind of bowed up or snug in there a little bit, because it'll end up warping the sign once the backing is on there, or even before it's on there. So once they're in there nice and square, almost no spare space on those sides because we want it centered in both axes. Then you put the sign frame backing on there. So the wider flat portion of the sign, you see it's flat on there and then it's kind of cut out on the other side. You want the larger flat portion going in first, and that sandwiches your police call box sign. The next step is going to be finishing assembling those and then placing them onto the box. I should note that it's probably a good idea to test fit the frames before you try placing the signs in them and on the unit itself. That was what the purpose of the box test section print was to test fit everything. But if you haven't done it up to this point, test fitting the frames on in the appropriate area up here prior to trying to place the signs is a good idea. That way you'll see if it doesn't go in at all, or if it needs some sanding work, you can take care of polishing that before you get to this final step. I've already tried testing it, and I'm going to try putting it in here. You want to line it up so the top of the sign frame, when they're together, aligns with the top pillar of the TARDIS. There is a ledge right here that we're going to slide it down to after we get this snapped on. So I'm lining it up at the top there, and one side will go in easier than the other, and then you just there it is, it's pressed on. And now we're going to slide it downwards towards the base of the TARDIS, and it will engage that ledge, and everything will be aligned. You notice the alignment is nice. There's a good space around here at these inset portions. And I'm going to roll this over and do another one. Again, line it up so the top of the sign frame's at the top of the pillar. I say this because if you try placing it on when it's too low, you'll run into interference with that raised ledge that's sticking out there. There we go. You'll encounter a lot of friction trying to snap it in, but once it's in and then slide down, it works great. And after you put it on, if you have it stood up and under power, you may later notice that one of the frames is a little cockeyed. You can go ahead and adjust that in place. You don't need to take the thing apart or anything. Okay, so I've lined up at the tops with the pillars. One side went in already, and I just got to press the other down. There we go. And then slide down into place. Make sure it's all pressed fit good. Yep. Trying to get that centered on camera. Try not to place the signs on here upside down. That'd be embarrassing since I'm recording this for posterity. There we go. It's on there, and slide down. There. Nice. I've adjusted the lighting here, and I have the box on its back again with all the signs and the sign frames engaged. And I'm going to try placing the lid on here now. Hopefully I remember to turn on the battery box before I closed everything up. I'm going to place the lid on there, and I can see visually that the pogo connectors are lined up on the shelf of the TARDIS and the lid. And let's see what happens. It's hard to tell in camera with the lighting how it is that the signs are in fact backlit, just because the window lights and the LED kind of drown it out in the camera. But you'll notice it when it's plugged in, or when trigger it normally. It's on battery power now, so I'm also going to touch the touch sensor, which is in the bottom right front panel. So it's hidden, it's concealed, but once you know where it is. And the damn Daleks. One of these days, if there's enough requests and demand, my next project may in fact be designing a functional TARDIS, or a functional Dalek. I don't know how it would work or what its function would be, but it sounds kind of fun and interesting. Anyways, there you go. This is you have completed your build, and you can explore this. A couple notes left here in the PDF is if the box stopped on battery power, stops seeming to work properly, there's either two situations. The low battery indication may have failed, and the batteries are just too low on voltage, in which case it'll act weirdly. Or the memory card needs to be formatted and the audio files replaced on there. Going to try to figure out how to get the audio files in the repository, or linked in the files online. I may just include those as a larger zip file that'll have PDFs, and it'll have the audio files in a folder and everything. So for formatting and reinstalling the memory card, audio files on the memory card can clear a problem, and just replacing batteries. Otherwise, get hold of me and let me know what's going weird with it. But hopefully the low battery indicator does work properly. If you trigger it when it's on battery power, either by touch sensor or by lid, and the top light flashes 10 times, that means it detected that the batteries are low. It's detecting them at or below 3.3 volts. And if you don't use it frequently, it won't drain very much, because it sips power like it's in the desert, and it doesn't want to waste anything. But do get my attention if you run into any problems. I also feel like I should come up with an owner's guide, so you can gift the box to someone and print out the owner's guide and fold it up and put it inside the box, and it'll have everything they need to know. Any other questions, please get my attention.